APC makes an about turn, now supports appeal against Sokoto Governor Tambuwal. Transmission Company of Nigeria ready to cut off errant gencos from the nation's grid. In international news, British Prime Minister Theresa May overcomes mutiny in her party, survives a confidence vote. In sports, Flying Eagles qualify for WAFL semi-finals.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. The All Progressives Congress has asked the Supreme Court to sack Sokoto Governor Waziri Tambuwal for alleged irregularities in the primary elections that propelled him to the governor's office as the party's candidate. Although the party had opposed the appeals filed by two contestants in that primary in 2014, the party has now done a 360 and now says it supports those appeals against Tambuwal. The party has changed lawyers in the case with Abduganiyu Arubo replacing Jibril Kutepa. The aspirants contend in their appeal that non-authentic delegates were accredited for the primary and are asking that it be voided. The case has been adjourned to late January next year. The United States has applauded Nigeria's presidential candidate who signed a peace accord on Wednesday. The United States Diplomatic Commission to Nigeria, and in a statement in Abuja on Wednesday, that America calls for a level playing field in the upcoming Nigerian elections. In the statement, the United States congratulated not only the candidate, but also advocate for peace and democracy. The statement also says the peace accord is a great step towards the goal shared by all Nigerians for a free, fair, and transparent, credible, and peaceful elections. The U.S. statement also says such an election would advance Nigeria's unity, prosperity, justice, and security. A statement urged all candidates to abide by the terms of the accord. It then reassures Nigeria of its strong support for the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and for all citizens and groups that would work together to achieve the type of election described in its statement. Lagos politics is heating up. Since campaigns began, not much back and forth had been heard from governorship candidates of either the People's Democratic Party, Jimmy Agbaje, or Babajide Sanwo-Olu of the All Progressives Congress. But that has changed. The two candidates are now ducking it out on social media. Agbaje has charged that his opponent is a yes boy for APC national leader Asiwaju Bola Tinubu. He claims Sanwo-Olu would not have been able to even consider running for governor if he had not been handpicked to be endorsed. Sanwo-Olu, in response on Twitter, said he would not disrespect Agbaje, whom he called his elder brother, but that the statements from Agbaje were, quote, unbecoming of an elderly man, end quote. Sanwo-Olu said the campaign should be about important issues that affect the lives of Lagosians. It's heating up out there. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, says it would make special provisions for internally displaced persons outside Nigeria to be able to vote in next year's general elections. INEC Chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakubu says IDPs who were displaced to Niger and Chad by insurgency in Nigeria would not be denied their voting rights. He said a policy document has been released to guide the conduct of IDP voting operations that would enable the IDPs to vote. Professor Mahmoud said the main reason for adopting this stance and making these provisions is the Commission's commitment to inclusivity and so that no Nigerian would be disenfranchised. Now to other news. Transmission Corporation of Nigeria is beefed over the failure of some power generators to stick to their prescribed frequencies. It says this is why there is instability in the country's electoral grid and leads to power system collapse. TCN Managing Director Usman Mohammed said the company is working on grid frequency control and will soon deploy 260 megawatts of spinning reserve in place of the current zero of 40 megawatts. Mohammed also said gencos that violate its frequency control orders would be removed from the grid. It seems as though the Central Bank of Nigeria and telco giant MTN are trying to find ways of resolving the $8 billion rift between them. One of MTN's lawyers is quoted as saying they are making moves towards an out-of-court settlement. Meanwhile, counsels for both parties have secured another adjournment until late January. Another $2 billion case involving MTN and the Nigerian Attorney General's office was adjourned as well last week until early January. This case is related to alleged back taxes owed by MTN. The telco giant has denied it owed the taxes. The $8 billion case was a result of a charge against MTN for allegedly violating Nigeria's extant laws. In August, Central Bank of Nigeria sanctioned MTN Nigeria for allegedly using irregular certificates of capital importation to transfer $8.1 billion to South Africa on behalf of its offshore investors. MTN is being asked to return the $8.1 billion to Nigeria. MTN Group's Nigerian operations account for 1/3 of its entire African market share. That's huge. Nigerian budget's benchmark appears buoyed by oil price stability as a result of cuts in production levels to which OPEC members have agreed. The benchmark of $60 was eroded by sustained drops in price. The high for the year was $86, which dropped to about $58 last week. It rebounded to $62 per barrel last week, but just as the Federal Executive Council was to hold an emergency meeting on how the price drops would affect the Nigerian budget, OPEC countries had agreed to reduce daily production by 800,000 barrels, while non-OPEC members decided to reduce production by 400,000 barrels per day. The ability of airlines to forecast and avoid turbulence would now be greatly enhanced as the International Air Transport Association has inaugurated a turbulence-aware date resource. IATA said the system would pool and share turbulence data generated by participating airlines. The global body for airlines says before now, airlines had to depend on reporting weather forecasts and weather advisories from pilots to offset the impact of turbulence. IATA says the result would be the first global real-time, detailed and objective information for pilots and operation professionals to manage turbulence. It is expected that airlines operating in Nigeria would participate and benefit from this new system. Coming up, African stories. 4 days before Congo elections, an electoral commission depot is raised, and later British Prime Minister survives confidence vote. Stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Adam, go and bring us your husband. Okay, hello baby.
We're in this together, okay? Can you hear me? Keep coming forward.
Wait, stop.
You okay, lean to your right. Keep walking down. Keep walking to the left. Yes.
You're almost here.
Keep going.
You are here. Wow, you did it.
I'm just so glad I didn't have to use my cane to do this.
And I am so glad no other man got you before me. Let me be your eyes.
We will never stop working to give you a network you can rely on so you can enjoy life's special moments. MTN, everywhere you go.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News, a quick run across Africa. Thousands of voting machines and ballot boxes were destroyed when an electoral commission building in Congo's capital, Kinshasa, was raised in a fire. The machines and ballot boxes were to be used in the presidential elections 10 days away. The Electoral Commission says this would not hamper the election process, but it is looking into the cause and extent of the fire. It says machines from other parts of the country would be brought in to replace the ones consumed in the fire. Presidential advisor Barnabe Kikaya bin Karubi blames the fire on those he called criminals. He said most of the equipment meant for the polls in Kinshasa, the capital, was destroyed in the fire. More than 15% of Democratic Republic of Congo's population lives in the capital. Meanwhile, the UK is now advising its citizens against all but essential travel to any part of the DR Congo. It has also urged non-essential diplomatic staff to leave the country by next Monday. Egypt's former president Hosni Mubarak's bid for EU to unfreeze his assets in Europe was rejected on Wednesday. The freeze was placed on his assets after his ouster in the 2011 revolution. European Union members country imposed the sanctions in March 2011 based on lawsuits filed against Mubarak and his family in Egypt for alleged embezzlement of state funds. After those countries grouped in the European Council renewed the sanctions in 2017 and 2018, Mubarak asked the EU's General Court to annul them. After Mubarak's ouster, Islamic President Mohamed Morsi took power in 2012 before the military toppled him in 2013 following mass protests against Morsi's rule. Former military chief Abdel Fattah al-Sisi became president later that year. The Somali government has granted 31 fishing licenses to China. This is the first time since taking office last year. President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo's government has given such rights to foreigners. The right would allow at least 150 fishing companies represented by the China Overseas Fisheries Association to fish for tuna in Somali waters. Many are uncomfortable with the deal. They worry it could deplete fishing stocks and threaten the livelihood of local fishermen. Burundi authorities are rebuffing a BBC report that says the country is running secret torture and detention sites to silence dissent. Prosecutor General Yandro Sylvester said in Bujumbura, his office has found in its investigation that the blood BBC reported as coming from a torture chamber was actually from goats slaughtered at the nearby house to commemorate the Muslim Eid al-Festival. He also said the house was not guarded by security services as reported in the BBC Africa Eye program, but by the police since November 2015 when they discovered there, and that no human rights abuses took place there. Ghana Medical Association is reacting negatively to a government's decision to transport blood and essential medical supplies to rural areas in the country by unnamed drones. The service has been contracted to an American company. Deputy Minister of Information Pius Edem Hazide said he was shocked by the GMA reaction over what he says would improve health services. The Ghana Medical Association says the use of drones violates the country's primary health care policy. It also said it will be counterproductive as it would cause more doctors and nurses to be unemployed in the administration of the drugs. The drone goes into effect next year. It was approved by Parliament by a majority of 102 to 58. Rwanda already uses drones for the same purpose. The Tanzanian government has dissolved the country's Airport Authority Board a few days after the president nullified the appointment of the board chairman, Professor Natubu Mbara Lemon, last week. Ministry of Works, Transport and Communication Permanent Secretary Dr. Leonard Chamurio said on Tuesday the action would help in improving the performance of the Airport Authority Board. When we return, international news, British Prime Minister survives mutiny in her own party, wins confidence vote, and latest sport, Flying Eagles qualify for WAFL semi-finals. Stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
This used to be me. But that was before I got the perfect bag. It's handy and easy to use. All I need in one compact space, just like my MTN Extra Value plan. I used to get one plan for my calls and then try to remember which data plan worked for me. Roaming was a totally different ballgame. Not anymore. I've got the MTN Extra Value all-in-one plan. If you're a data buff like me, you get extra data with some talk time. And if you like to make calls, you get extra talk time with some data. And when I'm abroad, I automatically browse, chat, and call right on the same plan. MTN Extra Value was made just for me.
More of data or calls, whichever one you prefer. MTN Extra Value is made just for you.
We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow the story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News and International News. British Prime Minister Theresa May can rest easy after winning a vote of confidence on Wednesday night in the Conservative Party by 200 to 117. After alighting from the vote last night unscathed, she is now immune from a leadership challenge for a year. But rocky road still lies ahead as she tries to push through a vote in Parliament to adopt a Brexit deal with the EU. After the all-important confidence vote on Wednesday night, May was in Brussels again Thursday morning to fine-tune the divorce deal she had struck for Britain. May vowed after vote results were announced on Wednesday night that she will deliver the Brexit people voted for. She acknowledged the rather high number of MPs who had voted against her. She promised to listen to and address their concerns. The vote was triggered by 48 of her MPs who are angry at a Brexit policy. They say the deal betrays the demands of the 2016 referendum result.
It's been a long and challenging day, but at the end of it, I'm pleased to have received the backing of my colleagues in tonight's ballot. Whilst I'm grateful for that support, a significant number of colleagues did cast a vote against me, and I've listened to what they said. But while delivering Brexit is important, we also need to focus on the other issues that people feel are vital to them, that matter to them today.
French authorities have issued a wanted person poster for the attacker who gunned down 3 persons and injured many at a Christmas market in Strasbourg on Tuesday. French police have identified the suspect as 29-year-old Strasbourg-born Sheriff Chichter, who was known to intelligence services as a potential security risk. French authorities have appealed to the public to remain vigilant as the suspect is still on the run and not to approach him, but instead call a hotline. Chichter has been on the run since the incident took place. The Lagos news is closing on American President Donald Trump, whose former lawyer, Michael Cohen, was sentenced to 3 years in prison on Wednesday. Cohen gave an emotional apology to the court for his involvement in a hush money scandal that scheme to protect Trump's chances before the 2016 election by buying the silence of 2 women who said they had affairs with Trump could threaten the Trump presidency. Cohen said his blind loyalty to Trump led him to ignore his own inner voice and moral compass. Stormy Daniels' lawyer, Michael Avenatti, had this to say after Cohen was sentenced.
He deserves every day of the 36-month sentence that he will serve. And I will also note with great irony, Michael Cohen will report to federal prison exactly 1 year after we filed the case on behalf of Stormy Daniels. Michael Cohen was sentenced today. Donald Trump is next.
Cohen will report to prison in March. The United States has blamed China for the massive data hack of as many as 500 million guests of the world's biggest hospitality group, the Marriott hotel chain. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said the U.S. believes China masterminded the hacking, which included the theft of guests' credit card information and passport numbers over a 4-year period. This includes guests who stayed at hotels previously operated by Starwood, a brand bought by Marriott in 2016. There was no immediate comment from the Chinese government. U.S. investigators suspect the hackers were working on behalf of the Chinese Ministry of State Security. Officials said investigators were concerned about the data breach because Marriott is used frequently by the U.S. military and government agencies. 9 persons were killed and 47 others were injured in Turkey when a high-speed train hit a railway engine and crashed into a pedestrian overpass at a station in the Turkish capital, Ankara, on Thursday. 2 cars derailed, hitting the station's overpass, which then collapsed onto the train. Television footage showed emergency services working to rescue passengers from wrangled car and debris. Harriet's newspaper says sniffer dogs assisted efforts to find survivors. The newspaper reported that everyone had been removed from the debris and no one else was believed to be trapped. Up next, sport. Flying Eagles qualify for Waffle semi-finals. Stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
If you know fit go internet or follow for Twitter, you know fit snap photo send or get it photo send. Now because you dey use Palasa, your phone no dey answer. See me see wahala. My brother, go get smartphone, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone. Phone wey no go for your hand, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone. Phone wey no fit take selfie. Drop that Palasa phone. No be correct phone, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone.
Upgrade to a smartphone today and get double data for 6 months on any MTN data bundle you buy. Simply purchase a smartphone from any store, anywhere in Nigeria, or bring your current smartphone from any network. Insert your MTN SIM card to start enjoying your double data bonus. Offer is open to all new and existing MTN subscribers. Join the largest smartphone movement today.
Make it not for your hand, that's Palasa phone.
Welcome back. This is ANN News and Sport. Nigeria's under-20 side, the Flying Eagles, are now in the semi-finals of the Waffle Cup in Lome, Togo, after a 4-2 win against perennial rivals Ghana. The Flying Eagles will face Mali in the semi-finals, while Niger will do battle with Senegal in the other last 4 clash. The Flying Eagles took the lead for the first time in the game a few minutes after the break, with Ibrahim Babawo converting from the spot. Nigeria have made it to the FIFA World Cup by beating host Egypt to clinch a place in the Beach Soccer Africa Cup of Nations 2018 final. Abu Aziz scored the opening and his 100th goal for Nigeria after a period of high pressure from the men in green. Taiwo made it for Nigeria a few minutes later after he ran on a long pass to Are low shot past Mohamed Fauzi in the Egyptian goal. Congratulations to them. And that is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on this and other stories, visit our website, annafrica.net. Conversation continues on the social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.